MMA fans, this is LTrain here again. Today I'm going to be breaking down UFC on Versus 2, the main card only. Just to run it down, we got Jon Jones versus Vladimir Matyashenko, Yushin Okami versus Mark Munoz, John Howard versus Jake Ellenberger, and Tyson Griffin versus Takanori Migomi. The first fight, Jon Jones versus Vladimir Matyashenko, I wasn't real happy when the UFC put this fight on. There's been a lot of people hyping up Jon Jones, and I've been one of them. I just think that the UFC's been kind of slowing down his progress, kind of taking him slow, build him as a star, which is good. But I'm ready to see him against some of the top level competition in the UFC lightweight division. When you look at this and break down the fight, it's a decent fight. Jon Jones is 4-1 in the UFC. His only loss is to Matt Hamill, which was a DQ. He's got Greco-Roman wrestling and Muay Thai and some judo. Matyashenko, he's got tons of experience. He's 24-4. He's 1-1 against Little Nog, which, if you know Little Nog, I mean, he's right up there in the top of the UFC lightweight division, or light heavyweight division right now. Matyashenko, he's got vicious ground and pound. He's decent at submissions. But the one thing that I see that he has over Jon Jones is the experience factor. Jon Jones, I think he has speed and agility, and also creativity. Sometimes with Jon Jones, he's so creative, you don't know where he's going to come from, where he's going to strike from, and I think that might be a problem for Matyashenko. If I compared this fight to another fight, it would be the beginning of the Jon Jones versus Matt Hamill fight, because Hamill has great wrestling as well, and he wasn't really able to use it against Jon Jones. Jon Jones kind of dominated the first part of that fight before he lost by DQ, and you kind of think, well, if Jon Jones is able to do that to a guy who's on a wrestling caliber like Matt Hamill, what will Matyashenko really be able to offer him? If Matyashenko is able to get him down to the ground and hold him down, I think that Matyashenko may be able to squeak out a victory. But if not, I think he's going to be in trouble. On to the next fight, we got Yushin Okami versus Mark Munoz. Yushin Okami, been in the UFC for a while. He got an 8-2 UFC record, but 5 of those are by decision. I don't think he's a real exciting fighter. He's kind of a grinder. Mark Munoz, he's a Division I wrestler, purple belt in Jiu-Jitsu. He was 2-0 in the WC before the WC and the UFC merged. He came in the UFC in the light heavyweight division, got knocked out by a high head kick by Matt Hamill, and immediately went down to 185, where he's 3-0. Recently, he had a come-from-behind victory at UFC 112 against Kendall Grove. If you break down like the strengths and weaknesses, I think the strength is definitely an advantage for Yushin Okami. A lot of people who fight Yushin Okami say that they didn't realize going into the fight how strong he was until they locked up with him. He's also one of the best Japanese wrestlers I've seen. He's got a little judo as well. Mark Munoz, he might have the edge in wrestling, though. One fight that comes to mind is Yushin Okami versus Chael Sonnen. Chael Sonnen was able to hold Okami down, and I wonder if Munoz would be able to do the same thing. I know Munoz has got vicious ground and pound. I've seen him. He showed it a little bit more in his WEC fights, but he's got powerful hands when he's ground and pounding. So this, I don't think is going to be a real exciting fight, but I'm kind of interested to see what happens from a divisional standpoint, because if Munoz picks up this win, he's going to be above, among the elite in the middleweight division. Okay, the next fight we got is John Howard and Jake Ellenberger. This is the most exciting fight on the card for me. John Howard is 4-0. He didn't really impress me his first 2 fights. He won 2 UFC fights, and as soon as he came in, they were both by split decision. I thought he was kind of a boring guy, kind of watching me, using a wrestling a lot. But the last two fights, man, I've been real impressed by him. He has KO victories to Daniel Roberts and Dennis Hallman. Look great in doing them, you know, exciting, quick fights. Jake Ellenberger, who's 1-1 in the UFC, he's got quite a bit of experience outside of the UFC. Man, he's got powerful KO punches. He's really packs some heavy punches. He impressed me in the Carlos Condit fight, even though it was a loss. He was able to hurt Condit a couple times. He worked him good up against the fence. I just think this is going to be a great fight to see who kind of moves up. It's because John Howard can win this. I mean, he's right up there, probably in the middle of the pack in the welterweight division. I think he'll be starting to get some bigger fights and bigger names if he can win it. Jake Ellenberger, 1-1, still kind of trying to make his name. I think if he can take this victory, he might start getting a little bigger names. You know, I don't think he'll get up top level names, but he can get a little bigger names. Our next fight, we got Tyson Griffin versus Takanori Gomi. Tyson Griffin's been in the UFC for a while. He's 7-3. He's got great transitions. He's a good wrestler. He's trying to recruit from a loss a little while ago to Evan Dunham, who's an up-and-comer. Been looking real good. Takanori Gomi's got tons of experience. After a loss to BJ Penn in 2003, Gomi went 15-1. At the time, many people had him ranked. Some had him ranked 1, but a lot of people had him ranked number 2 in the world. Since then, you know, he's been 2-3 in his last 5 and kind of lost that mystique that he had around him. He had a real tough fight. His first fight in the UFC against Kenny Florian. He was like one of the best lightweights. I think this is a little bit more his caliber of fighter. And, you know, the winner is going to be right back in things, you know. The preliminary card fight that I'm most interested in is DeMarcus Johnson versus Matt Riddle. DeMarcus Johnson, he's kind of been up and down in his MMA career. He's 11-7. He lost to James Wilk in the finale of Tough 9. Since then, he's had 2 straight victories. Edgar Garcia and Brad Blackburn, who looked pretty good before DeMarcus Johnson ended his UFC career, pretty much. They gave him his walking papers after DeMarcus Johnson beat him. But up until that point, he looked pretty decent. Riddle, he's a Tough 7 alumni. He's 4-1 in MMA, and all those fights are in the UFC. Both have looked pretty good. They're both towards the bottom of their division, but I think it's a tough division that they're in. And this is one of the fights where they might be able to break into like maybe the top 25 area in their division with a win. All in all, I just think it's going to be an exciting fight. It's 2 fighters that I've been kind of, you know, seeing here and there, and I think they both have good skills, and I'm just kind of interested to see what happens in that fight. Well, that's all. Breaking down UFC on Versus 2. Until next time, this is LTrain.